So I've been living and working here in Japan for about 6 years now, and I really love it here, and I'm gonna tell you why in just a second. But what I actually want to talk about in this video is of the first time I came here to Japan, which was actually 9 years ago, on a scholarship program from the Brazilian government. Oh yeah, and by the way, my name is Ravi and I'm from Brazil. So the name of the program was Science Without Borders, or Ciências Sem Fronteiras in Portuguese. And it is a Brazilian government scholarship for university students to study abroad. And actually, Japan wasn't even listed on the program at first. But I actually think I heard somewhere that Japan would be in the program, so I was checking from time to time on the website to see if they had added Japan to the program. And one day, when I opened the site, finally Japan was there. So I immediately called my friend that also wanted to go to Japan. He was from the same class as I was on university. And we applied to the program. We actually had to study a little bit of English to pass the TOEFL test. But overall, it was really easy to get into the program. I think because Japan wasn't listed in the program at first, so people who wanted to go to Japan didn't know that Japan was in the program. So there was basically no competition. If you had the minimum requirements, you could get in. So yeah, after we were accepted, we could choose between a few options of universities in Japan, and we chose Shibaura, which is an university that it's around Tokyo and Saitama. And as soon as it was decided that we were coming to Japan, I started studying very hard Japanese because I wanted to be able to talk to people here. And I also entered a Japanese school in Brazil for I think about 6 months before coming here to Japan for the first time. So after a little bit of waiting, we finally came here to Japan. And I gotta say this, but this was probably the best year of my life. This is probably gonna sound silly, and that's because it is, but the first thing I noticed before even getting out of the plane was how the roofs were pretty here in Japan. Just take a little look at how the roofs are where I come from and how they are in Japan. Can you notice any difference? I hope you can. And yeah, you're probably thinking, well, that doesn't matter. And you're right, it doesn't. But a thing that does matter is the feeling I had the first time I was coming back home here in Japan, after midnight on a dark road that was almost nobody in, using Google Maps on my smartphone without a single bit of fear in me. I will never forget the feeling, because where I come from, a lot of people avoid buying expensive smartphones just because they fear that it can get stolen. That was my reality. Quite recently, a bunch of armed men came into my house when only my dad was there, and they took a bunch of stuff. And even earlier this year, I was in Brazil again for about a month, and I had to see in the news like people getting robbed really close to my house and people getting killed on the avenue that I take to go to the shopping mall every now and then. So yeah, that was my reality. And I still can't understand how my friends and family can stand a lifestyle like this. But I think that maybe people just have different priorities and different tolerance levels for this kind of stuff. And another thing that I also like here is that people are really nice. They are super polite and they are quite fun to go out with as well. Not that Brazilian people aren't fun. I have a lot of really good friends and my family is really great in Brazil. But yeah, I do like Japanese people as well. And another thing is the convenience, because there are trains to go everywhere you want to go, and they're almost always on time. And there are convenience stores that are open 24/7, so that if you, after midnight, if you want a snack, you can just go out and grab a snack and come back. And there's also vending machines everywhere, so you can grab a drink if you want. And a bunch of other small things that just stack up. Oh, and the Japanese are cute. So yeah, now that that's handled, let me tell you a little bit about the program itself. So the Science Without Border program was a 1-year study program where we received money from our government to study here and live here. We received an initial amount to buy stuff like computer and smartphone and stuff like that, which was about 150K, which at the time was about 1 to 100 in dollars, so it was about $1,500. And there was also a monthly amount that we received that was also about 150K. So we lived on the university dormitory, which was about $400 a month if we count the electricity and water. In winter it would go a little bit above that, but around $400. And the university was free, so basically we had $1,000 to spend on transportation, food, and fun. In theory, we weren't allowed to work to earn more money, but there was no way that they could actually enforce that rule, so a lot of my friends were working on like a part-time jobs just so that they could earn a little bit more money to have more fun on the weekends. But for me, the extra $1,000 were enough. So what about the experience in the university itself? Well, the classes were mostly in English. There were a few Japanese classes, but the materials we received were in English, and usually there would be someone that knew English that could help us if we didn't understand something. And we did a few interesting and very cool stuff, like building a robot that could follow a black line, and I actually joined a research on a control of a hydraulic cylinder. That was interesting as well. But to be honest, the experience in the university itself wasn't the most valuable thing that I got from that program. I think that the most valuable thing is actually the experience of living on a different culture with different lifestyles and knowing different types of people and learning a new language. That's where the main value came from. And there was actually a club inside the university that was assigned to bring together the Japanese people and the foreigner people together to make events like ski and snowboard trips and drinking parties and sightseeing events, going to parks and stuff like that. And I think this was really nice because we were getting together with Japanese people and talking to them and trying, like, we had a terrible Japanese. Even after giving my best to study and learn, I wasn't able to actually have a deep conversation with a Japanese person. So my conversation skills were really terrible. But even though it was really fun because they tried their English, we tried our Japanese, and we laughed together, and it was just really fun. And I actually met my ex-girlfriend, which is Japanese, in one of those events. And you know what they say, right? Having a romantic relationship is the easiest way to learn a new language. And I have to agree with it. Not just because we can practice our Japanese with that person, but because we get frustrated of not being able to have like an actual conversation with that person. So it gets us motivated to keep going and keep trying to learn more vocabulary and trying to learn more grammar so that we can actually have a deep conversation in the future. And yeah, at a point I was doing like hundreds of flashcards every day and using the books to learn new grammar and doing listening exercises as well. And after about 6 months here in Japan, I finally got my N3 on the proficiency test in Japan. So when it started to get closer to the end of the program, I kind of started to get a little bit sad. I mean, I was happy that I was going to meet my family and friends again. But the thought of leaving Japan behind and all this lifestyle and all my friends here was very harsh, to say the least. But a thing that kind of helped me a lot was a new hobby that I got when I came back to Brazil, which was slacklining. I was going to the beach every weekend, to a slackline group where people practice there, and it was kind of fun. And of course, I kept studying Japanese and talking with my girlfriend at the time. And after the 2 years were over, I graduated college and finally were able to come back here again. And I'm working here until this very day. And I kind of want to also talk about this part of the story, but I feel like putting everything in one video would just be too long. So I'm gonna leave this part to another video. If you're interested in hearing more about how is it to work in Japan and my experience here, you can subscribe to my channel to get notifications when I release new videos. And if you want me to dive deeper in some part of this story, leave it in the comments down below and let me know so that I can maybe make a new video or just answer in the comments. And yeah, that will be it for today's video. I hope you liked it. If you did, leave a like. It helps me a lot. And yeah, see you next time. Mata ne!